All right, hello, welcome. It's Premarket Wake Up. My name's Frank. My community will eventually have some people in it. It's called No More Paper Trading. Not going to sell anything to anyone. No rug pulls, no nothing. I just want to build a community so I can become a better trader. I'm already getting what I want out of this. Ever since I started doing this stream, which by the way, I don't think a single person has watched yet. But ever since I've been doing it, my trading has been stellar. And I think that's because the illusion that people are watching, or the illusion that I'm being judged in some way, so therefore I try much harder. I don't know. But it's great, and I like it, and I really don't care at this point if someone joins it. In fact, I might not like it if someone does. I was just going down a rabbit hole of, I have one subscriber right now, and I'm almost certain that it's a bot that's going to just scrape my videos for any kind of information to use in any kind of way. Yeah, welcome to the internet in the year 2025. So I was looking at a way to look at them to see where my subscriber was, to see if it really is a bot, which I'm pretty sure it is. I did not see a way, and I should just maybe be more careful. I don't know. How careful can you be? All right, moving on. I didn't look at any news yet today. Over the weekend, I just watched the Bitcoin price, and it was rising over the weekend. But that, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I was also searching for articles on the AI crash, and nobody knows. Nobody knows why. I find that very suspicious that nobody knows why this happened on Thursday after Nvidia's earnings were stellar. It took a nosedive. It's recovering a little. It recovered a little bit on Friday. And if you go back, you can see that sometimes does happen after Nvidia earnings. I started to put together a table of the market before Nvidia, after Nvidia, during the earnings, and a few things did stick out. The fact that we haven't had a really huge increase in Nvidia's price around earnings since 2023. But other than that, I gave up on it kind of because it wasn't important to my evaluation. I don't trade Nvidia. I mean, I shorted them, but I don't trade them in the shorter term. But I do find it interesting that others did the same evaluation, but with different results. They're thinking, okay, so it's common that there's a dump after Nvidia, but then it recovers in the next month after. But why don't we take a look at that? Why not? What's it gonna hurt? Excuse me for one sec. I have to take this. All right, sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, we were looking at NVIDIA. Oh. What the hell? There we go. So their last earnings before the most recent one, as you can see, the month after that one. So what this article said was basically, yeah, NVIDIA takes a hit in the first couple days after earnings because people taking profits or big players setting up for a reinvestment, trying to get a good price or whatever, options, I don't know, all the same old excuses. But in the 30 days after that, it always grows on good earnings. So it didn't really happen in its earnings over the summer in July. It was pretty flat. Yeah, it went up, but it's not like it was. I don't know. Maybe at this point I'm convincing myself to be bearish, but there's really nothing good about the current market. And yeah, I guess you could have said that a while ago. But what keeps me in my trades right now is the fact that even if I lose on all of them, I've already made money on CoreWeave, enough to balance it out. So even if all my stops got triggered on all my other shorts, I'd lose nothing. So I'm in it till the end, till the stops get triggered. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the news. Then I'll go over overnight prices and where I think's going to happen today. Basically, for the last month, I don't know. I don't know. Anything could happen during the day. It's a top-heavy market. All right, on the calendar for today, European Commission Bank, I think it's Commission. Anyway, the big Euro bank, the Eurozone's answer to the Fed, their Fed, the president is speaking. People will be paying attention to that because Europe is in a crisis right now as well. They're having a lot of issues with what they want to do with rates. Same as us. Other than that, not much today. Again, this is a shortened week. I think Thursday and Friday there will be no trading. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Friday as well. But we'll see. A lot of the news said market seems to be setting up for the Santa rally. I don't know. It's not a given every single year. And the Santa rally is predicated upon strong consumer spending, which we're not seeing. Therefore, tomorrow's PPI and retail sales, it's late, but people will still be looking at it. And then Wednesday is very important too, with the initial jobless claims. Again, it's data for September. So we'll see. All right, let's take a look at the headlines. Yeah, okay. They always say this. Stock market today. Dow, S&P, Nasdaq futures rise, sparking hopes. Now it's hopes. Before they were so confident of rebound from November losses. U.S. stocks futures rose on Monday, eyeing a rebound to start the short and Thanksgiving trading week, buoyed by hopes for an interest rate cut in December. Again, they keep going on with the rate cuts, the rate cuts, the rate cuts. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I've heard so many conflicting views over the weekend. And everybody has an incentive. The one person I was listening to was kind of saying debt's the issue. That's the huge issue. And then put out an ad to buy gold from a company. So their incentive is to always downplay the market, so you buy more gold from there, and I'm sure they get a commission. So everybody's got their incentive to weave a narrative. We'll see. We'll see what will happen this week. The VIX was already starting to point up this morning. All we need is a couple bad news. See what else there is. Big tech's AI debt threatens to swamp credit markets. All right, this is coming right from Bloomberg, which is, so think of Bloomberg not as a financial news provider. Think of them more as the mouthpiece for big tech, for Wall Street. They are puppets. If they're putting out something, there's a reason they're putting it out. And it never has your interests in mind. Bloomberg is an NVIDIA stooge. So if they're putting something out like this, I don't know. I don't know the incentive right now. It could be that they're just trying to get a better spot to buy. Or it could be a controlled pullback. I don't know. I don't know. A flood of debt sales from big tech risks overwhelming buyers and could weaken the credit market on both sides of the Atlantic. That's the warning from Wall Street and investors. If the recent pace of mega bond offerings from the likes of Alphabet and Meta continues in 2026. These sales have capped a record year of global issuance. So I think a lot of this stems where they have to sell these bonds. They need to sell bonds because they're running out of banks to issue them credit because AI is not making profits. And that is the problem. So a lot of the arguments to the round tripping that NVIDIA is doing, where it buys a stake in a company and then that company buys GPUs from it. Basically, NVIDIA is spending money so others buy from them. That's the round tripping effect. So the problem with that is they need to keep borrowing money to buy their own GPUs. And if they can't borrow money anymore, the whole freaking circle falls apart. Somebody needs to start making real money from consumers at some point, whether that's business or normal people. That is why I think one of the biggest news events or news narratives right now would be, are people buying stuff? Are people going to be buying the AI stuff? Whether that's businesses or not. I don't think it's ready. Now the next question would be when? When will the market pull back to value? Until all these, it needs to. It's good for the markets, and it needs to weed out the scam companies like, what's the one that OpenAI is investing in? It's a company that claims that, you know, next year we're going to have autonomous androids running on AI. They've taken hundreds of millions of dollars and produced nothing but fake demos. Those are the types of companies that need to be weeded out. The pullback is what does that. Brings us back to value. And it brings us back so that all the companies can figure out how to monetize AI. Because if they can just keep making money off of building data centers to boost AI, then markets are completely a fraud. Then all you need to do as a company, I could start a company on the stock market and I can just spend money. At some point, money needs to come in. You just can't spend. With tech firms expecting to turn to debt for as much as... So anyway, kind of what I was getting at is they ran out of banks loaning to them, so now they're issuing bonds. A couple of the companies have gone to the government asking for help already. And so far the government's turned them down. I really hope to see that continue. Do you even have a strong market if the government needs to constantly keep it afloat? I would hope to see that politicians and Wall Street realized the gigantic hurt that bailing out the big car companies did, and how that was a huge mistake. I would hope they would see that and learn from that, but I'm too optimistic to think that politicians learn. With tech firms expected to turn to debt for as much as $1.5 trillion by 2028 to fund expansion in artificial intelligence and data centers, that could widen spreads across the whole market. Morgan Stanley argues. So their only plan right now to monetize AI is to spend more on AI. Bond buyers are starting to worry about being compensated for the risk of a bubble in the sector, given recent turmoil in tech stocks. Our biggest concern is that a flood of data center financing could cause supply indigestion, particularly in dollars, but with euro markets also absorbing parts of the funding needs. So this is a way of saying we need the Fed to create liquidity. Again, that goes with the narrative that a Fed rate cut's going to change everything. So even if they do cut in December, 1/4 of a point, that's still not going to change. They need a lot more. And that's the other thing, that quantitative easing isn't the only way to create liquidity. Other areas could dry up. The private equity markets are kind of, they've had problems for years. So I don't think they could turn to private equity. if they could have done that, they would have done that before going to the government. So another thing is, this weekend I noticed that a lot of the YouTubers that, again, don't trust them, but they're always saying, they're always drumming up fear, because fear makes you click. It makes you want to click on them. But this weekend I saw a lot bigger number of them being focused around the AI bubble, whereas they were ignoring it last week. So that's something, I guess. What else is here? Investors are now questioning whether these massive investments in artificial intelligence will pay off. There are no broad signs of panic in credit, with many of the sales so far having come from top-tier names. Alphabet raised $17.5 billion in the US and $6.5 billion in Europe. Okay, but these are big names that have been around for a while. Alphabet could lose half of its entire money and it still would be a giant that would eventually be able to pay off its debts. I don't know if you could say the same for like CoreWeave or Palantir. Meta sold $30 billion. Meta beat Alphabet. Well, whatever. And Oracle did $18 million. Demand was huge, with Meta getting a record peak order book of $125 billion. Hedge fund Man Group pick. Man Group pick? Hedge fund. What kind of a name is that for a hedge fund? Man Group pick. Noted that high yield firms are also issuing, including former Bitcoin miners. These companies' data center plans come with aggressive deadlines and a heavy reliance on supporting lease contracts, it said in a blog post titled, "Why Bond Investors Aren't Totally Buying the AI Hype." A glut of supply of lower quality names in the AI space might be too much for markets to stomach. Man's Group, John Larawi and Hugo Richardson wrote, "The hyperscaler frenzy continues, but we remain watchful of future AI slop." As always, let's check the comments. I have to wonder, with the bank so extended in the long-term infrastructure and development of AI and its returns not in the immediate future. That's a run-on sentence. Unemployment rising, with government firings and massive corporate layoffs in a white-collar sector that have been happening in a matter of the past months, with more to come. I'll never understand like the way modern people write. They can't really complete a sentence. Grammar's, other than that, and spelling's good, but does not know how to write a sentence. Won't people start falling into default on mortgages, car loans, credit cards? Is a banking crisis coming? Yes, it is. So that's the other thing. Recently, we keep reaching all-time highs with defaults on car loans. What's the word I'm looking for? When they take back your car because you can't pay the loan. And nobody's buying new cars, so what happens when all these large companies take back cars and these cars are sitting in lots because nobody wants to buy them again? Nobody can buy them again. Repossessions, that's what I'm looking for. Are the emperor's new clothes being I can't say that word right now. To fund the largest misallocation of capital in human financial history? We will find out. In the not too distant zombies. Okay. That's interesting. So usually it's something like this. you'd have people saying, you just don't understand AI. But nobody is. Nobody's saying that right now. That's interesting. And I know, like, the people who are like permanent bulls on AI, as soon as they see credit markets here, they would not even read this article. They're like, what does that have to do with anything? So it's strange that the Yahoo has this article. Well, that's from Yahoo Finance. That's from Bloomberg. Yahoo Finance, I don't know. I don't know if they have a narrative or not. EU, no tariff cut coming at first talk since US deal. Trump says TV networks shouldn't be able to enlarge. That's strange. It's one thing if you talk about ending monopolies, but shouldn't be allowed to grow. I don't know. Don't you have more important things to do, Trump? Performance Food Group, U.S. Foods scrap merger talks. That's interesting. The fact that they were trying the merger in the first place is a sign that people aren't buying as much as they were. Let's read this. Why not? I usually stay away from this sector because I don't know much about it. Man, that would have been a good trade. And I didn't do it anyway. Let's just take a look at that quick. I was having trouble again getting my broker to connect because I don't know. It's probably just a coincidence, but ever since I started becoming more profitable in my futures trades, Interactive Brokers has had more and more problems connecting and placing orders. I don't know if that's bias on my part or just coincidence, because there's also been countless problems with internet infrastructure lately. But it's just strange. It really is strange. I don't want to go down that road thinking that even if I start earning, a couple $1,000s a day scalping, that they're just going to flip a switch and make it not happen. That's scary to think about. It really is. All right. Anyway, I was going to place an order right here, a quick scalp, and it would have worked out perfect. But to me, it looked like, because RSI was rising quite quickly, it did kind of look like price action was not in my favor. And I didn't feel like carrying a loss up to previous day high, which is right up here, because it might have rejected that as well. But then not only do you have to cover that ground, which with 7 micro contracts, that's about $500-600 gap, but then you'd have to make profit off that again. So I don't know. And then you also have pivot point up here. And with VIX growing, which, let's take a quick look at that. It's not really growing that much. It's fallen more than it's growed. Grown. Growed is not a word. The actual VIX is growing more than VIX futures. But still, the rate at which that's growing is not, I don't know. Strength looks sharp, but it doesn't seem like a real big rise in volatility. So that would lead me to expect that we're going to bounce back and forth between here. But with the open, anything can happen. Let's just speculate and say it was 6 a.m. and this was happening. Then looking at VIX and looking at price action, that would lead me to believe that price would just bounce back up again. That this didn't have enough strength right now to break below the 100 SMA. But with the opening happening in 30 minutes, anything could happen. All right, let's go back to the news for a minute and read this article on U.S. News. U.S. Foods. Performance Food Group, U.S. Food scrap merger talks. Performance Food Group and U.S. Food Holdings have called off talks to merge in a deal that would have created a food distribution giant rivaling top player Cisco. The companies on Monday said they mutually agreed to end the information sharing process and will no longer pursue a potential combination. I wonder if they got, a tap on the shoulder from the Fed, or not the Fed, from the FCC. Is it the FCC? The SEC. Yeah, that's it. The SEC. Tap on the shoulder saying, we don't like this, we're going to give you trouble. I don't know. I don't know if they'll tell us. Performance and U.S. Foods said they each determined that the pursuit of their own standalone plans was in best interest of their shareholders. So they both realized that. So if you think of mergers, there's a lot of reason for mergers, and I don't know a whole lot about it. But the first thing that came to my head was they're merging because U.S. Foods had bad sales and thought, let's merge with Performance because they'll pick us up. And Performance had bad sales and they thought, let's merge with U.S. Foods because we've had bad performance and let's have them help us pick up. So they both opened their books to each other and they both determined, well, we're both crap. So this merger doesn't help anything. That's the first thing that's come into my head. And both companies reaffirmed their financial guidance. A combination of U.S. Foods with a market capitalization of nearly $16 billion and Performance, which sports a market capitalization of around $15.2 billion, would have vaulted the combined company to a firm number 2 position in the industry behind Cisco, which is worth about $36.7 billion. See, again, this is the whole point of market pullbacks, market crashes. As long as the government doesn't get involved, it breaks up monopolies and it lets consumers win again. It lets innovation win again. Because bigger companies means less competition. Less competition means monopolies. It means prices going up. And I don't know how people started to think the opposite. I think Ford came out and said it the dumbest. Monopolies bring prices down because we don't have to spend money on competing. And people bought it, I guess. Performance, based in Richmond, Virginia, specializes in supplying snacks, beverages, and candy for vending machines and convenience stores. Oh, they're probably doing terrible. As well as packaged foods for grocery stores, while Rosemont, Illinois-based U.S. Foods provides food products to restaurants, healthcare, and educational institutions, which are both doing terrible. With the rise in the healthcare costs, I bet hospitals are going to start cutting things they don't really need. So if you go into the hospital for surgery or whatever, you don't need a 3-course meal. They're probably going to try and get away with giving you crackers. Something smaller. Not just that, but restaurants. People don't have money to... If people don't have money to pay their car payment, they don't have money to go out to eat. Bloomberg in July reported that U.S. Foods was pursuing a takeover of Performance, and the companies in September said they had agreed to share information in order to evaluate regulatory considerations and the synergies related to a potential combination. U.S. Foods on Monday said it plans an accelerated repurchase of $250 million in stock under its current buyback program, which had about $467 million remaining as of September 27th, and that its board had approved a new $1 billion repurchase program. I don't know a lot about buybacks, stock buybacks. It's something I haven't really delved into yet, and I need to. I forget if it's bad, it's good. It could be good, it could be bad, I think. Let's read the one comment. No, it's not a very exciting article. It's probably going to be like, Trump did this. I'm guessing that not enough board members and executives like their buyouts enough to consummate the deal and create synergies. So they will simulate shareholder value temporarily with buyback statements. They're desperate. They're desperate to stimulate shareholder value. It's not good. Alibaba pops as its rival to ChatGPT makes strong debut. Alibaba has... Okay, that's not good right there for US markets. That was 9 hours ago. Boding well for a longer-term effort to build a rival to OpenAI's ChatGPT. That's going to put more pressure on GPT, OpenAI. It's going to put a lot of pressure on them to start making money because Alibaba has the weight of government behind them. And being number 2 has a lot of advantages, especially in a country where you don't respect law and you can just steal everything that OpenAI does already for a tenth of the cost. I do remember still back, that was last winter I think, when, I forget what it's called, a big AI, large language LLM came out from China, and it was just as good at a quarter of the cost or a third of the cost or a hundredth of the cost, whatever. It caused a pretty big pullback in stocks before people forgot about it. Market also views this move as a crucial step for benchmarking it against the valuation of OpenAI. And you can't trust what they say. You can't trust what anyone says, I guess. A million times in 4 days since its launch. That's kind of not a lot. I think that stems more from people not wanting AI. People don't really care about AI yet. Chatting is easy, doing serious is difficult. Okay, what can ChatGPT do that's serious? I have been using paid ChatGPT along with free Copilot and Gemini, and the results are mixed. They can do some jobs well, but so on those involved complex concepts. I've asked Quen the following question: is Musk crazy? Response: Xi says Xi think calling someone crazy isn't a productive way to describe okay, that's G says G sells she stores on the she store. All right. Let's check bar chart. Stores keep prices down in a tough year for turkeys. Other Thanksgiving foods may cost more. All right, so I don't know why I look at bar chart has good tools, but terrible news. Okay, yeah, please don't pump more money into the economy. That's interesting. I know it's completely unrelated. Yeah, they're always doing that. Life insurance companies. That's why you shouldn't. An annuity is not an investment. It's life insurance. All right, let's take a look at, I'll read that myself later. So I was kind of right. It did look like prices were not ready to go lower yet. We'll see what happens. I don't agree with the assessment that stocks are going to go higher today. But that doesn't mean they're not. I'm very often wrong. And I kind of have a bias. But either way, I'm going to trade in the shorter term. In fact, I have no reason to get upset. If VIX goes down and prices go up, then that means there's less volatility in the market and scalping is easier. But we'll see. I don't know if it'll happen this week, but soon. There could be another huge, like what happened the day after Nvidia earnings. The huge rise in volatility. On Thursday. We're still elevated as far as volatility goes. But you see these spikes. It's showing problems in the market. This spike was tariff spike because it was brand new for the markets, I think. I guess you would see this going back in time. Yeah, I don't know. This is the daily, by the way, for VIX. Just going down pretty quickly now. I'm still skeptical that we'll get beyond. That would be pivot point. We'll see though. Let's take a look at all the indices in the overnight. See if we see any irregularities. So the ES pulling back to a pivot point rather than the 100 SMA. So the Russell did quite well on Friday. But as you can see, the Russell is down right now. Down from the open. I guess they all are, aren't they? No. Keep an eye out for that. The Russell has been kind of a signal for the rest of the markets for a while. The Dow is looking very similar to the NQ and ES. I started noticing that the Russell was leading the other indices. That was a while ago I noticed that. I think that was all the way back in April. The recovery from the tariff low. The Russell was the first to recover. Because it's a credit-led market, and the Russell is most sensitive to good or bad credit of certain companies. Because the Russell has a lot of smaller companies that, you know, when they're growing, when they're new, they live and die by how much they can borrow. So that's an excuse for why the Russell would lead the market. Let's take a look at gold. Gold is up a little bit in the overnight, but stuck by yesterday's close or Friday's close. If people are moving into gold, it's not showing. It's the daily. At first it looked like they were moving into gold. It's kind of strange, that big drop on Thursday after earnings also saw a drop in gold. I don't have an explanation for that yet. Gold delivery intentions break down. Fed rate cut bets. Oil's been down, but it's recovering right now. I don't see any correlation with oil in the markets right now. It's kind of strange with all the turmoil right now. And is it Venezuela? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I get some of those countries mixed up. Anyway, you would think with rising tensions, usually oil price rises, like when there was stuff going on in the Middle East early this year, oil jumped up pretty high. Yeah, it's Venezuela. low can it go? I have no idea. Let's take a look at the VIX again. I guess I could have known it would recover right there. Shoot, I gotta put my recycling out. And the dollar. This is the 5-minute. So the overnight dollar is mostly down, but it seems to be recovering right now a bit. So if there is a credit issues, the dollar rising makes it even worse because you're getting less money to borrow. So if companies need to borrow money to do share buybacks or whatever it is they do, throw it in a furnace and burn it, which is what most of them do. If the cost to borrow money is higher with the dollar higher, that's an issue. And that's why the rate cut, well, it's not a rate cut today, but it's the president of the ECB talking today is important. So if the value of the dollar rises against the euro, it's going to make it harder for companies to do what they want to do. The yen is falling in the overnight, though, against the dollar. It's been falling for a while. All right, that's all I have today. I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do around home. I don't like holidays. I wish I could work all week, actually. But it's like bitter medicine, I guess. You need holidays. All right, that's all I got. Goodbye. Good luck.